Welcome to another episode of the Ready, Set, Pwn podcast, your premier source for everything to do with the Vancouver Titans. I am Chris at Lightforce, the voice you hear each and every week, coming back to you again this week, including live on Twitch for those of you who tuned in. We didn't know if we'd actually stream live. Originally, we thought, the Vancouver Titans didn't play, and, they're not going to be playing again this week, so let's just record a normal podcast. But these are not normal times. I am joined virtually, as always, by Sam, at another Sam Chan, who's apparently offering drops, as well as Omni at Omni Strife. And gentlemen, what a week it has been. Before we get into the week that was for the Vancouver Titans, what have you been up to?
Well, not much, considering the fact that the most outgoing I've been is just going up to my balcony and drinking coffee outside. The weather has been nice, though, so that's good.
It has. And, for those that don't understand, for us who live in Vancouver, we're accustomed to this transition in the spring when the weather improves to just get outside, go everywhere, because we've been suffering through rain and miserable weather throughout the winter. So this spring has been, doubly tough because we can't go outside. We can't go and explore. Well, we can, but we're not supposed to.
I like how you mentioned normal times. Remember how in normal times our biggest concern was just getting Froster cups?
Yeah, collecting the entire set.
Yeah,
I had to go to Mission to get one of those cups. Now I go to Mission to get
brutal.
Yeah, Froster cups were previously the hot commodity. Now it's toilet paper and hand sanitizer.
Crazy.
The world we live in. We did, as a group, get together and play a little Overwatch last week on Friday. Team RSP took on Timberflynn Concepts, and I would be remiss not to mention that Team RSP got beat down 6 times over. We did win the Torb match, so as far as I'm concerned, that means we're the best team.
We won 7-6.
I will say that of the 3 of us, I'm the only one here that's undefeated.
Yeah, that's true, because when you have a 0-0 record, I mean, how much better can you get than that? I think it's important to point out that the team we went up against, this is a group of guys that play every night, and if not every night, every few nights together as a group. Whereas Team RSP was built in a handful of days with me saying, hey, who wants to play Overwatch? Let's all get together. And I believe we had 2 people sub in, Omni Lena and then, friend of the show, Screw and I, they subbed in, late in the game on Friday. So our practice and ability to organize was in game, hey, who wants to play what? And as those who might have tuned into the stream watched, they couldn't actually see me play a whole lot of Reinhardt, which is a shame because everyone knows I'm a sub-bronze Rein.
I mean, we got better as the games went along, to be honest. It started out awful.
Could you get worse?
Oh yeah, we could have lost the Torb match.
Of course.
The Mad Torb match where turrets were still permitted and you didn't actually have to use your hammer to get kills, so...
I mean, if you want to go back and rewatch it, I think the VOD's still on our Twitch, right?
Yeah,
I watched a little bit.
It is. In fact, I might be pushing it out to YouTube, so it'll be there for posterity. Anyhow, gentlemen, it has been a week. We are going to get into the mix here. With everything that's been going on in the world of the Vancouver Titans. We're not the first to explore this topic. There have been other content creators, other podcasts. Competitive Overwatch Reddit is just going into overdrive. But the one thing that we've been able to do is we've actually been able to talk to someone within the organization. So we have some insight that we can share that we only got today. So, the entire period of the payload, we're going to be talking about the Jews. I'm not necessarily going to spill any Jews. Maybe we will. We don't know. But that's what we're going to focus on. We're also going to provide, for those tuning into the live stream, a special Q&A. So if you have questions, save them for that point in time. Myself, Sam, and Omni will do our best to address them based on the information that we have access to, but also, to provide you our opinions on the matter. And then we'll dive into the regularly scheduled episode where we get into the fray, and that's where we're going to talk a little bit about the Overwatch League, the game itself, before winding up our show. So, without further ado, let's go directly into the payload.
Moving the payload! Join me!
Well, as we all know, the Vancouver Titans did not play last week. We were kind of surprised by that development in our last episode. And there was at that point rumors of possible discontent. I mean, if we rewind 2 weeks previous, the Vancouver Titans did not look good over the course of a weekend, and last year's Rookie of the Year in Haxall did not play. Little did we know that 2 weeks ago, the occurrence, and in what we saw the previous week, was small potatoes in a grand scheme of things. So let's just give a quick recap on everything that it is that we know when it comes to at least the Vancouver Titans. And I'm actually going to give a call out here to friend of the show, Katrina, who is, without a doubt, the Vancouver Titans team mom. You'll see her in Titans Cord and RSP Cord quite regularly. But she summarized this the best I've seen. So, Haxall got benched. We're not entirely sure why. He obviously got benched, though, didn't get into any action, and the Vancouver Titans definitely missed his presence, at least from what we could tell from the way we saw the team play. We then started to see players remove Titans from their name in Discord. Slime, Twilight, Stitch, Summonsue all removed Titans from their names, so they just became their handles. And then we got to notice that Anthony Morocco, who is or was the general manager of the Vancouver Titans and Seattle Surge, he announced on Twitter that he was leaving the team for personal reasons. And to sort of summarize the 2 tweets that he had shared is that due to personal reasons and family complications associated with COVID-19, he was leaving Canuck Sports and Entertainment, who is the ownership group of the Vancouver Titans. And I know that kind of gets confused sometimes. It is not Luminosity that owns the Vancouver Titans. It is the Canuck Sports and Entertainment, and by sort of extension, the Aquilini family. Now, he does go on to say that it wasn't an easy decision for him to make, and that he was going to be miss working in both Overwatch as well as the Call of Duty League, but he was moving on. So, if we're recapping so far, we've got some interesting sort of coaching decisions is what we thought. We've seen some adjustments to player names in Discord, and then a GM leaves. This takes us into this past weekend. Ru Jaehong said that he is going through a tough time right now. And a tough enough time that you had a team like the Seoul Dynasty reaching out to them and saying, hey, is everything okay? Can we help you? And then we had Haxall on Instagram reply to a request for him to come back to say that he cannot, which, again, doesn't really provide any insight as to what's going on, just that he can't. But then he removes everything to do with the Vancouver Titans from his Twitter bio. And that has subsequently happened with each and every player. The players have removed the Vancouver Titans references in their bio. They've removed references to the Vancouver Titans graphics within a Twitter profile, a Twitter header. We've seen Instagram and other social media platforms adjust. And I believe, as of today, and I have not gone and dug deeper into this, Slime no longer follows the Vancouver Titans Twitter account, which, again, is next level investigation by a fan base, us, that is not only deeply invested in this team, but really looking for answers. And throughout all of this, we haven't heard a whole lot from the organization. So here we are. There is smoke. Quite clearly, there is something going on. And I don't think that's anything that should be new to anyone else. So what is it that we actually know? Well, I'm actually going to go and reference a couple messages that we got from the organization within Titans Cord. So this is, again, it's quite visible. It's public knowledge. So we had a response from Ryan Nicholas. Ryan Nicholas, for those that don't know, has previously talked to us here at Ready Set Pwn, and he is the senior director for, I believe, content and marketing for the Canucks, the Vancouver Canucks hockey team. But he is involved within the esports realm. And he has engaged in Titans Cord. And I want to applaud Ryan. I mean, it is difficult for him to be coming in and engaging, but he's providing some level of context. Now, to summarize his his reply is he addressed that there is some frustration and concern based on everything that's going on. He shared that he wasn't privy to anything that might be happening on the player personnel side at the time, and that there isn't anything that he could share. He also conceded that there's been a number of logistical challenges related to COVID-19, which I think, again, is news to pretty much no one at this point.
Bring me another.
And he also acknowledged that the transition of Anthony out as GM made things a little more complicated. And that was it. That was a message that we had received back on the 18th. That was over the course of the weekend. And then again, there was nothing outside of a scheduled tweet, which was unfortunate through official Twitter. Things happen. Unfortunately, just poor timing. That leads us into today. And over the course of the weekend, a lot of people have come into Vancouver Titans Discord looking for information. I can't tell you the number of times I've seen someone ask in Discord, hey guys, what's going on with the Vancouver Titans? Have you read this on Reddit? Have you watched Tactical Crouch? Have you seen this? And it's people that maybe aren't as invested in the Vancouver Titans as some of the other fans are. It's people who are invested in other teams who are just, loving the fact that the Vancouver Titans are going through some issues. And I finally had sort of had enough. I, myself, started talking about it from a perspective of this feels to me like it's a divorce. It is a divorce between two parties, let's say two parents, players or an organization. And I'm not suggesting that this is truly a divorce, but it just sort of feels that way. And we as fans are kids. And unfortunately with a divorce, there are two sides to an argument. There's two sides to a situation. It is not a good thing to go through, but sometimes it is a necessary thing to go through. But no one wins. And as the kids, we, the fans, we're impacted the most. And we're sort of in this position where we don't know what's going on. We can't even get that insight from the team, and it is difficult. So my approach has been to talk about this being not all on the organization, but I can see the organization. And when I talk about that, I'm talking about sort of the Vancouver Titans as a whole, not an individual person, have not done the best job at, having that line of communication open. So I reached out. I actually reached out to Alfred De Vera, who's joined us previously on the podcast. And he got me in touch with Ryan Nicholas today, and he and I chatted. So I can officially tell you, based on that conversation, a few things. First and foremost, Ryan reiterated that the Titans will be providing more clarity and more insight soon. That's actually something that Ryan addressed as well within Discord. He also outlined that there have been challenges with the team setup in Korea. And again, that's not anything new. But what we do know, and again, if you listen to our podcast and you follow Ready Set Pwn, the Vancouver Titans were going above and beyond to try to set this team up for success here in Vancouver. They had a top-notch facility. They had a premier, essentially sports program and facility in a Fortius Center and Adamas C Sports set up to help give the players an opportunity to be the best that they can be. And if you listen to the previous episodes, Alfred himself said, we want these players to have this opportunity to take that next step. We don't want to set them up simply to succeed and win today. We want them to be better at everything when that future were to occur. All of this structure was in place, and he had mentioned that the plan was originally to have the team based here in Vancouver, and that's where they would operate from. Unfortunately, that did not work out. The players themselves had asked, can we go back to Korea? And while the team was not under any obligation to make that happen, they elected to do so again because they wanted to support their players. And I get it. I mean, we talked about this on previous episodes. These are, young kids, young adults who are away from home in a very uncertain period of time. I think if I was in their position, I'd probably want to go home too. And unfortunately, in leaving the structure that existed here in Vancouver, going back to Korea presented new logistical challenges. That being the actual setup, having a singular place for the team to go and a singular place for them to play. I specifically asked that. Is there a team house, and will there be sort of a central place for the team to play? And if not, is there plans to have one set up? And Ryan conceded that there isn't at this time, and there have been challenges as a result of that. The other question that I had asked as well, straight up, was about, the GM. We saw Anthony transition, and right now there's a lot going on. There is this disconnect with us as a community and how the information will flow through. And he had explained that there are plans to have an opportunity for someone to fill that role. and those plans are currently being worked out. And I get that. I mean, if the decision of Anthony to depart happens suddenly, it's not like you simply go and find the next person, especially in the current time and era that we live in. And from there, the other thing that he had mentioned is that we will be hearing from the team soon. Now, I joked with him about this. Soon, like we record Tuesday night, where our episode goes live on Wednesday, and podcast lore suggests that if we don't hear now, we're going to hear Wednesday afternoon. And he laughed at that. Well, it is Tuesday night we're recording, and we haven't heard anything. So I'm going to suggest that, as per podcast lore, we're probably going to hear more about what's going on in the world of the Vancouver Titans this week. And with our luck, it'll be like 12:01, 1 minute after our episode goes live. So, I know that's been a long-winded explanation, but that's what it is we know. We do have insight. I've been able to go and speak to someone from the organization. I am giving you their name because they are willing to provide that. And that's something I want to make very clear. There are a lot of content creators out there and a lot of people within social media that are talking about their sources. And I respect that not all sources are able to go online. But it's also important to understand that in this particular scenario, we have someone who has, and I'm sharing again what he was able to provide. I know it's not going to satiate everyone's appetite for information, and I know more will follow, but I can assure you we at Ready Set Pwn will be looking to get that to you as soon as possible. In fact, we've may need to provide a special episode to dive into anything that might break or anything that comes our way. So that's enough of me talking. Let me pass it over to you, gentlemen. First and foremost, any initial thoughts on everything that's going on right now, or opinions that you'd like to express in relation to all the information that we've seen over the past week, past few days?
I think my connection to the stream just died from the abundance of information. I had to rejoin really quickly. Yeah, it's a very complicated issue. I didn't think we'd have to discuss something like that, or potentially something devastating to the team as we know it, as it is right now. But why is it so complicated? Because in my eyes, this whole salad, or this amalgamation of lack of information is involving 5 parties really attached to this Titans team. You have the Canucks side, right? The ownership of the Aquilini Group. You have Luminosity, which is charged with managing this entire ship. You have the core of players originating from Runaway. You have Owl, right? Overwatch League itself, who is still the owner of the franchise itself. And you have COVID, which is another factor. So we don't really know enough to put the blame solely on anyone. And that's like the first reflex, the first knee-jerk reaction that you want, except for COVID. I mean, screw that thing in particular. But if you had told me in the past that the most probable player to finish the season with the Titans is Fisher, I'd say your trolling is weak at best. But it certainly seems that way right now. There's no stability. I'm hoping for the best, but honestly, I'm mentally preparing for the worst. You don't see stuff like that happen. You'd see sometimes a player just go out of lines. You hear drama about stuff like that, but this is unprecedented, where an entire team, you don't just remove all your associations with a team by mistake. You don't do that, and today we saw that even the coaching team did just that. It's very unfortunate. The stuff we hear is pieces at best. So I have a lot of opinions, a lot of things I want to say, but I don't want to do that as of yet. I'm just really sad, and I want to reach out to the fans and to this entire amazing community that we are here for you guys. And if you have Q&A, obviously, so this is also like a support group right now. If you just need some comforting and like someone to reassure you that everything's going to be okay. It's not going to be me, but it's probably these two guys who can do that. I don't think that
Q&A section brought to you by Zuckerman Law.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So that's what I think about this thing, and I think we're due for a bumpy ride. It's still not done yet.
Out of curiosity, what do you guys consider worst case scenario? I noticed Omni said prepare for the worst. What would be the worst for you? And this is this is not even speculation. It's just, in our deepest fears, what are you guys worried about?
The worst and improbable scenario, by far the worst, is that next year we will introduce the Memphis Titans to the
That's
the league.
That is offside. And for those that don't get the correlation, that is an NBA reference.
I didn't even think that far.
That's the more probable outcome is just losing this amazing core of how we always say, a top 3 players in like 3-4 positions out of 5 and having to fully rebuild the team and just fighting for scraps right now in a situation that's so dire in terms of applying for visas or any sort of viable travel. I'm not like jealous of the situation that this team is now being tangled in. I mean, I'm saying that we haven't seen stuff like this before, but now that hindsight is obviously 2020, and we did have some weird red flags popping up, like the rumors about Titans trying to shop Haxel, and the fact that they did trade away Bumper, who seemingly was the leader in the face of the franchise. We now see that there might be stuff we didn't really know about, or how deep this little tunnel of nightmares goes. So honestly, the worst case scenario is, like I said, just losing this team as we know it.
Mm-hmm. So actually, if I can answer that question, in worst case scenarios, the Vancouver Titans are done. I mean, I from a perspective of a podcast that follows the Vancouver Titans, but just as a Vancouver Titans fan, if what we have heard is true, and the Vancouver Titans have had such a fracture in the relationship between sort of the organization and the players, and that's that. The situation that we're in with the times as they are, I mean, what's not to suggest that the pulling of the plug is possible? Now, I want to point out, I'm not suggesting that I actually know something, and I feel, based on my conversation that I had with Ryan, that is not the case. But I mean, let's be honest, if we were talking about worst case scenario, outside of moving to Memphis, I'm pretty sure that if the Vancouver Titans were done, plug is pulled, that would be the worst, right?
Yep.
So, but again,
I don't know, the Memphis thing. I didn't even think about that. That might be worse than losing the Titans altogether. Revisionist history.
Yeah,
that's pretty bad. But I think like, and again, to preface this isn't us rumor mongering or anything, but we're talking feelings now, right? Like, that's what you guys are here for. Is we're talking feelings. Is if we scale back that and it's like, okay, the team stays, but we lose the players. Are we still cheering for the Vancouver Titans if they're no longer, the people that we know and have come to love? And then we scale it back from there. And what if it's not the whole roster? It's some of the roster, or it's the coaching staff, or it's different people that we've, as a community, we've all, eventually built relationships with over this, short period of time. And I think that's my way of coping with this whole situation, is like, I think we're beyond the point where we can just deny that there's damage. Damage is not just been done, it's presently happening, right? And I think as fans, as a supporter group, like we kind of have to brace ourselves that there will be changes in one form or another. What those changes are, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But in my mind, and how I've been getting through the past week, is just going, it's like, okay, well, what's the worst case scenario? What if we scale back from that? What if it's this? What if it's that? And I don't want to give these clips for all you guys watching on Twitch to just pull that out and throw it on Cow, but like, that's how I've been coping with the situation, is like, okay, well, is there still Overwatch? If there's still Overwatch, mm-hmm. then there's still something that we as a podcast, we can still talk about. Yeah. But I think it's been tough for me. Like, I shared with Chris off stream, like I haven't been able to play much Overwatch. I haven't been able to watch much Overwatch. Every time I bloody go on, I see those Titan skins, and then there's a little part of me that just dies a little bit. So to answer your very first question, a lot of Animal Crossing, a lot of staring at walls, no reading whatsoever. Unfortunately, I should actually do something more productive with my time, I think, is my self-reflection. But yeah, I think that's where we are. And because there are no matches this weekend, you promised a list. I will make sure to get us a list before the end of this episode. So make sure you stay tuned for that.
So you know, and again, we've probably been clipped. We're already on our cow. Vancouver Titans are done. We don't know. And that's not us sort of sitting on juice that we don't wish to spill. Trust me, if I knew and I could speak for certain this is what's happening, that's what we would provide. But what we do know and what we are able to go and do is provide context that others might not be able to. I did also miss one point that Ryan addressed, because I asked him about scheduling. I had asked about the fact that the Vancouver Titans didn't play last week. They also didn't play again this week. When might we expect them to return to play? And was that decision simply, you know, the scheduling with the Overwatch League? Is there more to it? Because we've seen other teams like Seoul. They've announced that they will be coming back to the Overwatch League play once they go through, quarantine period in Seoul. Spitfire, same sort of thing. They've since returned. NYXL, similar situation. So we're obviously seeing, teams sit out. And there wasn't an announcement for Vancouver. So his response was that it was mutually agreed upon between the league and the team to not schedule matches until what is happening is sorted out. And I think that's the clearest acknowledgement that there is something happening. What that something is and what the end result will be. I mean, yes, we can speculate all we want. And there's no sense that the three of us are going to sit here and add to the speculation, because it's already out there. That's public domain. Head to Reddit. Head to Vancouver Titans Discord. Heck, go to other teams' Discords. Someone had shared.
Just don't leave your house.
Yeah, someone shared a screenshot from the Seoul Dynasty Discord where even people there who aren't invested in the success.
Our rivals are pitying us.
Yeah, I mean it's not a good time. But what Ryan did say is that the Vancouver Titans will be returning to the Overwatch League schedule. So, him saying that leads me to believe that worst case scenario that I envision is not going to happen. Now, might that scenario be a different group of players, different team, different structure? You know what? I don't see how it's not at this point. I mean, we've seen players remove mention of the team. We've seen coaches adjust their usernames.
That's work.
Right? The certainty that we know, there are going to be changes. We just don't know what they are, and from what I understand, that will be announced soon. Now, to speculate a little, even though I know I said I wouldn't, and again, this is just something I shared in Titans Discord. I do hope that if what's going on, if let's say the team, the players themselves, are making decisions, that they're making decisions based on good advice. I hope that no one gets hurt too badly when all is said and done, organizationally, players, team. I mean, it's important to understand that this situation is not a good one for anyone involved. But I think it's unfair for us as fans to go and look at the Vancouver Titans and say organization is trash. I mean, people are saying that. They've made a lot of mistakes. I think they'd have the gall to actually admit that that's the case. Alfred's done as much on previous episodes. In fact, I sat down with him after my TED Talk in December, and he said as much. He's like, yeah, we need to do a better job. We aim to do so. And I think they are trying to. It's just they've had some struggles, but I don't get the sense that this is a team that hasn't looked for a way to support its players. Like, to have someone say, oh, they're not supporting their players in Korea. I mean, we know for a fact that they had world class set up here in Vancouver. The world changed. The players wanted to go home, and under no obligation, the team said, okay, we'll get you there. But again, it's not like you can go and magically make infrastructure appear and get set up, right? So I don't feel it's fair to go and completely paint this broad general brush against either party. It's an unfortunate situation as it is.
Trash organization making its way to the finals in its inaugural season, and now everything is getting affected by this pandemic for real. What the hell?
And
how dare they?
It is important to understand there are difficult times in front of us. We're experiencing them right now. No organization, no business is immune to them. No person is immune to it. Literally and figuratively, immunity is an issue right now. But
how about those antibodies?
what is important to understand is that there is a light that exists at the end of the tunnel. And based on my conversation with Ryan, yes, we may not come out unscathed. I mean, Sam, you raised a good point. We don't know what will come out. And it might be, a transition of the people who might support. Like, I support a Vancouver Titan team. I'm a biased Vancouver sports fan, and so I made that very clear from day one of this podcast, and that'll continue to be the case. I hope it is the same roster that I've come to enjoy watching. I truly do. If it is not, yes, I will express concern, and I think it's very clear to all of our listeners. I pull very few punches. If I have something to say, if you don't hear about it on the podcast, you're sure as heck going to see RSP fire up a TED Talk on Twitter. We've had 2 of them. One in December, where I pulled very few punches when it came to the organization, and one again this weekend, when I actually tried to provide balance and a sage level of advice, which normally, Sam, that's you. You're the balanced person. Omni and I, we're the fly off the handle type. So again, we will do that.
I don't think our listeners agree with that.
Everyone has a trigger.
Yeah.
Everyone has a trigger. But I mean, like, just to bounce off that, like, we're not saying there's no problems. We're far from saying that. We're saying that actually there's probably multiple problems. Some on the player side, some on the org side. And honestly, we all got problems, right? There's probably a song for this somewhere. Like, we've been home for 6 weeks and counting now, right? I think. I actually can't count 5, 6, something like that. So like there's a base layer of problems that everybody has, and it's clear that that's not the only problems, right? So like, that's like, to all the questions that are going to come in and going, well, who can we point the blame at? Who can we point the fingers at? Like, I think we can either point at everybody and just guns blaze, or we can do something a bit more productive and positive. What those things are, I'm not entirely sure. I think there's been a lot of good things that people have been happening. Like with Stitch's birthday yesterday, or I guess for people listening to the podcast 2 days ago, we saw a lot of memes come out. Like there's still ways to do different things and to show support while acknowledging that, yes, it's not perfect right now. So I'm constantly looking for that balance, that in between, where we're still showing our support for whether, and to be fair, like, I get some of us listening, we are fans of the players first, and the org and the team. That doesn't mean anything, and that's totally cool. If you're a Rouge Hong stan and that's what you want to do, like I support you 100%. So you should be very unhappy for Rouge Hong or whatever, whoever it is, right? I'm just throwing that name out there. But at the end of the day, like, the things that are going to happen are still going to happen. So to me, like, esports and the Titans and this podcast and this community has always been, for lack of a better term, an escape to the stresses of regular. I'm constantly looking for, okay, how can we make this fun again? Because I got to be honest with you, it's not very fun right now.
No, it's not. And I think that's where we at RSP are going to try to I think take a lead. I mean, we want this community to last. I mean, our hope is, to your point, Sam, if you are a supporter of a particular player who no longer wears Vancouver Titans colors, that you still tune in. I mean, we value each and every member of the community. I'll use Bumper as an example. I'm a big fan of Bumper. I really wish he was still a Vancouver Titan. I don't know what went into the decision to ultimately no longer have him as part of the team. But if you happen to be a Bumper supporter and you follow him to wherever he goes, it's phenomenal. But the community part is what's most important to me. It's you, our listeners. It's what I often refer to as the Force of Nature faithful, getting tongue-tied here, or Force of Nature family, because it's truly what we are. I think we've sort of said our piece enough, and I've seen questions come in from those who are watching live. So why don't we take a quick moment here to address them? So if you asked a question previously, I know Sam and Omni here have tried to do their best to see what came in. But what we'll get you to do is we'll get you to ask them. We'll try to address them as much as we can. Again, we're not going to go and simply make up an answer. So if you're looking for us to tell you, what is, Slime's favorite ice cream flavor, I don't think we know that answer, but you can feel free to ask and we'll just say we don't know. So that's straight up what we're going to do. Okay? So let's, before we get into the Q&A segment, hear a little voiceover.
Hey, Hasselhoff is my hero. I love Knight Rider.
So, is Hasselhoff your hero? You could start off with a question such as that, but I imagine anyone other than a Reinhardt main would agree. So, let's talk about your questions, and the three of us will do our best to answer. So I'm actually going to go to one that was dropped just as we went into the segment from Isvashra. Do we know if the players are discontent with only the org, or is it possible that at least some of them are also frustrated with the current OWL setup, particularly matches from home? So I will sort of answer the question from a perspective of, do we know for sure? Unless Sam or Omni have much better connections than me and are sitting on the juice, I don't think we do. But one of the common themes that we've seen from other players is that the current system, not so much playing from, but like the hero bans and that, have made it difficult for Overwatch League teams to essentially scrim, practice, prepare. I mean, one of the reasons we saw the unified, hero bans or hero pool was to ensure that Overwatch League teams were able to go and essentially play and scrim competitively so that they could actually prepare for the weekend that was upcoming. Because the previous world, they were like us. They'd have the single tank, 2 DPS, and 1 support ban, and yet they'd go into competitive where there was like no support heroes, no tank heroes, and all the damage heroes are ready to go. So I think that complexity has unfortunately provided some pain. Anything the two of you can add?
I think the biggest addition to this discontent question is, I know for a fact that regardless if you talk about Overwatch or Call of Duty or even traditional sports, the thing players are discontent or hate the most is losing. And this hero bans situation, or trying to adapt to this ever-changing meta or playing against teams that have already been playing a lot, is definitely not helping. And them losing 2 games, which is something that they're not accustomed to doing anyway, and suddenly not being this juggernaut, is probably adding a lot of fuel to the fire and to the disconnect that players have within the organization to the management and whatnot, for sure.
And the field are playing well to add fuel to the fire. But you've hit on one of my favorite topics, which is making fun of OWL. It's one of my absolute favorite things. It's probably the thing that tilts me the most. Earlier this week, I think Arnold from I think Gen G Gaming was asking on Discord, does anybody know if the match's schedule has come out yet? So here we have the chief operating officer of a professional team asking its own community, when are we going to work this week?
Okay, I just want to point out, he did concede after. He's like, I know, I just don't know if it's public yet. Now,
fair enough. Sure, Arnold. But I just, it's crazy, right? Like not knowing when your players are going to work, not knowing who's playing at what time you're playing, and having first we start with the players, right? And they have to prepare for their jobs. And then you go to the teams, the coaches, the managers who have to, coach them and set up the strats. So, okay, what's a hero ban? If we're not playing this week, then we don't need to prepare for this week's hero ban, because next week is going to be a different situation altogether. And then we scale down from there to the actual staff. How are they going to promote this game? How are they going to share this game? How are the community people going to distribute this news? So everybody's waiting on, there might be 4 people somewhere in Irvine, California, that's, asking their cat when the next schedule is going to be. And around the league, at least 20 different staff are all looking at that, waiting for the ball to drop. So is there discontent? I think you'd be crazy not to at least be a little frustrated. At least, go do I get that you have to go week by week, but at least do a month's worth or something, right? Is it really more work to do 1 week of scheduling versus the next month of scheduling? And if weird things happen, like I don't know, Philly Fusion go to Korea or London Spitfire come back, whatever, then there's understandable reasons that those matches get pulled. Just like when the Titans unexpectedly went back to Korea, their match against the Field got pulled. Like I didn't hear anybody complains like why didn't the Titans play. I would say that both sides, the Field and the Titans, they were fairly respectful because it made sense, right? Of course they can't play. They literally got off a plane. Right. So if those things happen and the schedule needs to change again, sure. Like I think fans can have a good explanation to that point. But right now, this kind of week to week to week thing, this is why we're seeing Overwatch numbers drop like flies. Right. And that's a league issue. And to me, like that actually worries me a lot. So I know I definitely tangented there, but I can almost firmly say I think there's definitely a level of discontent to the league, but based on everything we've heard, I'd still say that that's not the main issue right now.
Question from the Alligator. Have you thought the players are dealing with serious mental health during this crisis and the setup regarding the OWL schedule from home causing more grief? Well, I can speak from my own personal experience. I am suffering from anxiety. I mean, that's something that I'm dealing with myself. I'm going to imagine there are many people out there who are like me, and probably many of these players. I am a middle-aged guy. These are, teenagers, young adults who are going through a situation that has not been experienced by many of our own generations. I mean, I'd have to go back to like my grandparents being around sort of generationally for the last, worldwide pandemic. But what we know is that the players themselves had asked to go home. And we talked about this on previous episodes where if you were them, do you think their families were saying, oh yeah, no problem, stay in Vancouver? Everything's good. I think there was maybe some pressure from home to come home. I mean, I as a father would want my kid, my child, baby force with me. I mean, I would not want that separation. I can totally see how that might exist. And knowing that the players themselves said, hey, organization, can we go back to Korea? We would feel more comfortable there. And that the fact that the team said, sure, I think there was two edges to that request. One, players who wanted to be where they were comfortable, home, and a team believing that to support them and provide them that level of support, that home might have been the best place to go. So, adding that all up, I think that sort of suggests that, there was some mental health strain. I wouldn't suggest serious. I don't know. But then, take a look at the deeper issue within the Overwatch League. I mean, it's been no shock that the league has acknowledged that there's been mental health strain and issues amongst players. And it's something that they've continued to try to obviously deal with in normal times. And right now we're not even in normal times.
Yeah. And I think the question that wasn't asked, but it's really looking at, it's like, okay, was it the right decision to move the team back to Korea? And we do know for a fact that it was the player's choice. And that came at a cost, right? Like the whole idea of like, oh, they're not in a gaming house. I don't know if that was ever the plan or that's going to be the plan in the future. I have no idea. That's pure speculation. But they knew before going back home that they had an option to stay. And also with that, if they do go back home, there are going to be consequences of that decision, whether that's as something as simple as like better internet or worse internet or whatever, like just looking at more trivial things. But also I think making the jump from would their mentals be better in Vancouver or in Korea? I think hindsight is 2020. And I think only the players can answer that for themselves. It might, and it's not all or nothing too, right? It could be great for Slime and bad for Hacksaw, or great for Hacksaw and bad for whoever, right? Like it doesn't necessarily mean for all or nothing. I know in my experience, and Chris, I'm happy you expressed your own sharing. It's some days are more productive, and some days I feel awesome and think, gee, I wish I could do this all the time. And the other days are like, this has got to stop. And both those feelings are, from what I understand, very normal, and we're all kind of experiencing these things at different times. Depends on the weather, depends on how much sleep you got, depends on what you ate, depends on a billion different things that are going on. Depends on how much news you read, right? So there's a lot of things there. Like so without completely ignoring or giving like a non-answer based on, I guess this is just our opinions. Like I think it's very likely that they thought going home would be one thing and it would be great, and maybe it didn't turn out this way. But I got to be honest, there's only so many times a team can move during the season. So I think they're staying there one way or the other for the rest of the season.
And I think like them wanting to move, it's not just a concern for health or Korea doing better in this COVID pandemic situation. A lot of it comes down also to them trying to be better at their jobs. So if you think like usually all people are affected by this situation, imagine what happened if for your position in your company you had like thousands upon thousands of other competitors for your spot. They are competitors and they are performing in that like half of a like top percentile. So it's, to begin with, like you said, Chris, it's super competitive and stressful as is. Add on top all this chaos, it's getting even worse.
Yeah. The last thing I sort of just on the mental health side is it is a serious issue. If any of you, our listeners, are experiencing anxiety, stress, and need help, please reach out to many of the phenomenal services that are out there. If you need help connecting to someone, please reach out to us at RSP, and we'll do our best to find you a resource. It is a tough time. There's no shame in recognizing that what we're going through right now is unprecedented. We don't have experience. We don't know what the certainty and the answers that might be are. I mean, we're living sort of day to day, and I know it sometimes becomes hard to sort of realize that, yes, while we are living day to day, we will get through. That uncertainty still exists, and it eats away at you. I was listening to a podcast, and they talked about how, one of the hosts had said, I'm dealing with this constant buzz of anxiety. It doesn't go away. And it's just there. And I mean, that's, in my mind, it's almost a good way to describe it. It's like that's, that sound, that buzzing, that ringing, that just sort of, that gives you the unease. And in the current world that we're in, it's a tough thing to handle. There is no shame in asking for help. Sometimes you need it. And I will concede, there have been times that I've needed to reach out to someone, and I'm better for it. But that doesn't, provide all the answers and provide the solutions. I'm just saying, please, do so. If you are feeling that you're in crisis, ask for help. It is better to ask than not, because not is what's potentially going to result in larger issues. Coming back onto the lighter topic, which is the Vancouver Titans in the Overwatch League right now. The question that came from Siren Song 67. If the current roster can't be salvaged for this season, how does the org go about fielding a team in the current world and league climate?
87. Gotta put respect on that name.
Is it 87? Sorry, it's hard for me to see with the color that it showed up to. Siren Song 87. So that question though, like how does the org go about fielding a team? For those listening to the podcast, you can't see my visible reaction. I truly don't know. Like, it's unprecedented for this to occur. I mean, do we know of any other organization where they would have gone through such drastic changes mid-flight and not have, a bench large enough to accommodate, or an academy team that they could lean on? Like, the Vancouver Titans have one of the smallest rosters. It's only the Boston Uprising that, well, technically the Boston Uprising, which are smaller. We'd actually don't know if that's truly the case right now. What do they do?
Well, I think the Mayhem changed their entire roster mid-season, but that wasn't a great example of succeeding in that. But I think the first step would be hiring a new GM, right? That's the title, or the role that is charged with building up a team. And I think there's plenty of Overwatch talent outside or even inside of the league. So that it's hard to even speculate where do we go from here, because we don't really know what goes on with the contracts right now. We have a great team on paper with a lot of great and desirable pieces that I'm sure we can leverage in some capacity. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but maybe rebuild around Fisher. I don't know.
Somebody clip that, please. Rebuild around Fisher. Hey, he can get the roster that he wants. I too think it's a little bit premature to talk about this, and I'm not ready to just give up on all our players and just say bye and see you later. But at the same time, like, there's a lot of very good Overwatch players in this world, and a lot of them are grinding in a tier 2, tier 3 world that pays them less than peanuts. Can't even afford peanuts. Right. So honestly, like, and this is not me taking sides, but if it ends up being like so and so player did this to basically get themselves ousted out of their job, or they refuse to do XYZ because of ABC, whatever that situation is, well, sorry, there's a lot of people that are just gunning for your job every single day. And that's part of being an Overwatch pro is you are the best of the best. And if you don't want to be the best of the best, somebody's going to take your spot. And that's competitive sport, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. And just that, to that point, whoever comes in to try and clean this situation up or make it better, the first thing to do is just to sit down and heal this conflict that the team is having right now. Speak to the team as a unit, speak to them separately, and see what every one of these players who show this huge discontent right now to the organization, what it is that they want, and maybe there is some sort of solution that they can come up with. It might be the entire team. It might be just a few of the players. Because for the life of me, I cannot believe that there is something good that comes out from just picking a side and going like head to head like two armies. I'm definitely sure that the Titans are not, even though we try to say that they're a hive mind. I'm sure that every player on that team has different needs and desires, things that like matter to them more. What are the values that they care about? Is it being close to family? Is it the security of being in the league? Is it more support from the professional staff? Starting with the coaches as well. So that's the thing that they need to start doing, like to bring everybody back to the table and have a conversation about this.
The segue to actually something Ryan had shared, and I think it's sort of an appropriate time talking about roster, like what do we run back? So Ryan had actually answered a question that was posed in Titans Court about players getting paid, because let's be real, and there are a lot of businesses right now that are furloughing staff, laying staff off because financially they're having difficulty making a go of it. So Ryan had addressed this by answering, the players are all getting paid as per their contracts. The Titans will be playing again soon, and the organization is committed to the long-term success of the team. I know it's hard to be patient, but clarity will be coming soon. That one comment was then screen captured, dropped on a competitive Overwatch Reddit, and suddenly it itself has grown a life of its own. What he was saying there was simply addressing the question of the potential for furlough and layoffs. So please, with context, and understand that comment was based on, yes, players are getting paid as per the contract, but it does, tie into that previous question from Siren Song, is that if there are changes, there are other reasons why different contracts might be in play, and those contracts might not be around. Trades, releases, and again, it's a messy situation. And feel it's important to share that.
We're not privy to the contracts or their contents, right? But we do know that if players are getting paid or anybody's getting paid, that means that they show up to work as well. Yeah, that's the thing I got.
And that's again, that goes back to my point. If the players themselves are making decisions, I hope they're getting good advice. I hope that the advice that they're receiving is good, because I can't speak from the organization, but
Twitch chat.
I'm positive the organization is getting good advice. Doesn't necessarily mean the right decisions get made based on that advice, but good advice. Continuing on.
Lawyer up.
Yeah, exactly. Continuing on to answer just a few more questions. Katrina_OW said, could the choice to have gone back home be influenced by some sort of conflict within the org? Maybe. I don't know. It's hard for me to say that would be the case. Knowing what we know, knowing the structure that the Titans had in place. We had Adonis on. They talked about sort of some of the things they're working on. In my mind, yes, being at home provides a level of comfort, but if you weren't at home, I think the Vancouver Titans organization had provided the players the next best thing. So it's difficult for me to go and say that there's the conflict in New York, but then we don't know everything that's been going on. If that was the case, then why play that 1 week?
Which was another question, is like, who decided that they should play out of quarantine? Who knows, man? Maybe it was us. Maybe it was RSP. It was the fans. Mm-hmm. We demanded a match after 3 months of protesting.
Yeah. Which, to be honest, I mean, we've talked about on previous podcast episodes. Maybe we exerted some pressure, and that sort of forced the team to come
We
back.
have that kind of muscle around here.
Well,
but
I mean, Omni sort of said we better get a GM in place, and the first thought in my mind: which member of Team RSP makes the best Vancouver Titans GM?
That's a dangerous road.
We'll just crowdsource it. Yeah. Do a brainstorm session for every decision.
Yeah.
I think whoever gets the job might end up crowdsourcing it. It's like, how do you type this email to the league? How do you spell Pete's last name?
Good work.
Oh, so I'm just going through chat. I'd lost track of some of the questions here that had been asked. Elgator has another one. Wouldn't it make sense for the Owl to create a feeder league like Canucks to the Comets? And he says Light Force, you get it. So this is the area that I will admit to not fully understanding, outside of the business side, maybe not making sense. There isn't a proper tier 2 structure with the Overwatch League. And for one reason or another, what we see from Activision Blizzard is this desire to not really embrace that. We've seen so many teams, even prior to the uncertain times that we're in, fold. I mean, look at the Toronto Defiant. I talk up the Toronto Defiant regularly. I'm a big fan of many of the things they've done. They folded their academy team. The Montreal Rebellion are no more. They shut that team down, and that was that. They now no longer have one, whereas the Vancouver Titans haven't had one. So I think it would be helpful in retrospect to have some form of system, and maybe there will be one eventually, but at this point, let's circle the wagons. We got to get the league out of this season into season 4. And beyond that, expansion and having a proper academy program and whatever that might look like, that's down the road type of stuff.
Season 4 seems like Disneyland right about now.
Yeah.
Like with every tier 2 for any league or for any combined sort of structure, it's really hard to entice investors to put in money in something that just doesn't generate that much interest or viewers. So there's not much that can be done to make that whole product better, instead of like, of generating some sort of interest. I'm not familiar with any G League players or any other teams, so It's just the same across every esports or traditional sports league.
And one final question here, another one from Siren Song 87. For a group of kids accustomed to sitting in a team house playing video games all day and night, could the expectations of being set up in a place like Adamas and the standard of a pro sports environment like CSE, so CSE Canucks Sports Entertainment, be setting a standard and expectation that just isn't realistic in an esports world?
It's a reasonable take.
It's kind of like the analogy I would use here. It would be like getting into a sports car when all you've ever been driving is the Hyundai Accent, right? Like there's so much power there. The handling is completely different. It's almost an intimidating experience, and that creates its own problem. But who would argue that car isn't a phenomenal car? Right? So
like mine, I'm not going to trade it in.
Well, no, but you know what I mean? Like if I were to hop into your car on me, I'd be somewhat intimidated, right? Like it's just a different car. It's meatier than I'm used to.
I completely agree with the point, though. But here's the thing. You know what else? What other thing that people are not probably accustomed in esports? Getting paid 5-6 figures. So that's the big difference. And for some players, it might be too much, or the expectations that suddenly fall on these kids. Again, these are kids. We've seen a lot of weird stuff going on, right? With like Crystal skedaddling and going off to do shopping with his mom and girlfriend, and like it happens. but maybe the Titans being as tight a core as they have been for so long, and having this familial approach with Flowervin, and once that is taken away from them, and they're literally getting new uniforms and being told, okay, now you're professionals, and here's the plank challenge. You got to do 3 videos a day, and you got to do this and that, and here's Fisher and Bumper, your friend is gone. It might bring a lot of stress and expectations, and losing the championship as they did last season added a lot of that, and add another pandemic. I'm surprised a lot of other teams are not just falling apart right now. So it's definitely a thing. So yeah, it's a good comment actually.
And I think like I think we've spent the bulk of this episode, and it feels like we've definitely taken an angle that almost can be defensive of the org, gently so. But I think we want to clarify, or I want to clarify that like we're not trying to defend the team. There's been so many mistakes, and we've been critical of them in the past as well. Like the laundry list is long. They haven't done laundry in a very long time, and the reason that like I think we're trying to kind of speak to the other side a little bit is because this is the side of the story that you don't hear as much on RSP Court or Titans Court or so much. Not to say that those don't deserve their own moments. It's just that, you know, I personally feel like we've dug these issues to bits. Like, could they have done things better? Absolutely, they could have done things better. Could they be doing things better now? Could their communication not be, you know, bleeped? Yes, absolutely. Like there's even today in the comments in the sections, could there have different things that could have been said? Yeah, for sure. And so like I don't want to come off like we're doing this episode just to defend the Titans or defend the org. The only thing I will defend is definitely everybody that I've interacted with on a personal level. I appreciate them as people, as professionals. They work hard, and they are passionate about what they do. Like you know. And Alfred probably doesn't want me to talk about this, but like Alfred had a pretty good gig going with the Canucks, and he saw enough potential in the esports side to shift over full time. So that takes dedication, but that also takes like a belief. So he wouldn't have signed up for it if you know he didn't believe he was going to build something that was going to last longer than 4 months, right? So like on the personnel side, I'll defend to the end, but on the org side, like none of us get paid enough to be like protect the Titans or anything like that. Like in no way whatsoever. That being said, like we do think in any argument, like any normal argument, there's always two sides to the story, and I think we're spending the bulk of the time trying to, you know, share a little bit of what could be on the other side of the story, because we know everything's on Discord and Reddit already, and I'm not dispelling those things whatsoever. I think a lot of them are valid concerns. Some of them are invalid and a little bit crazy. But you know, just you know, this just trying to paint a fuller picture here.
I mean, I love Overwatch as an esport, always have, but like the Overwatch League in itself is something new that never has been done before, or to that extent, or that level of production or attempt to become something that kind of, you know, looks like traditional sports or something grandiose in that regard. And I fully tip my hat to all those who are involved in making this a reality. And everything that's new and trying to disrupt something new will have its growing pains, and maybe it won't even survive, right? Like before Facebook, we had MySpace. Maybe Overwatch League is the MySpace, right?
I think MySpace still exists, doesn't it?
Well, of course it does, but
where's Tom at?
Yeah.
I was friends with Tom. So was everyone else.
Weren't we all?
So just on that note as well, on the people side, if you caught the RSP TED Talk this weekend, I did stress that it's important to understand that there are people who are hardworking. They're genuine. I can't think of any person that I have personally interacted with that's related to the Vancouver Titans organization that doesn't, one, want this team to succeed, want the best for not only the organization but the players, but wants our community to thrive. It is a tough job, and right now it is tough times. Think of everything that we're going through in our day-to-day, and now amplify that by everything that they're now having to hear, and they're not in a position where they can candidly come out and say this or that. That doesn't make that any more right or wrong. It's simply a reality that I don't know if many fully understand what they see and go through, but they do. But, Sam, you brought it up, quite on. Every person is committed to success. And as long as we recognize it's not a people issue, and this happens far too often. I worked in a call center for a telecom, and you can't imagine the number of times that people talk to me in such a manner that they were upset at the company that Chris got to deal with it. What really upset me wasn't the people upset at the company. It's when they went and made it personal to me, because I'm here trying to provide them success, the best service I can, and that becomes difficult. So please remember that. Please take note. These are hardworking people in a tough spot, and the fact that they remain there, I want to applaud them. I did say it was one last question. There is one more, only because I really like it. From Modala. What's the current situation of Canada airports? One, is there any regular flight between, I'm going to say it's Seoul and Vancouver. I think it's Incheon Airport.
Yeah, Incheon.
Or any Canadian airport. And two, is entering Canada as a Korean citizen holder or citizenship holder still permitted at this moment? So there are still flights between Seoul and Vancouver. In fact, I think Seoul's only point of entry in Canada is Vancouver. There are only, I want to say, 4 airports international flights can go to in Canada, Vancouver being one of them. There aren't many, but there are flights between Seoul and Vancouver, and I'm not aware of any issues of someone coming from Seoul to Vancouver, though if you arrive, there are significant issues as to, one, you actually having the ability to cross the border.
And if your SR is below 3,000, you're not permitted to get in.
But then, so let's say me as a Canadian citizen were to come from Seoul to Canada. When I cross the border, I have to tell Canada Border Services what my quarantine plan is, because I have to go into quarantine for 14 days. I have to actually have a plan. I have to tell them not only where am I going, how am I getting there, and what's going to happen over the course of 14 days to ensure I don't leave my home. Like, who's bringing me food? And how are they getting it to me in a manner that doesn't violate quarantine? Like, it's a big deal. So,
and to jump on the latter half of that question, just because my day job does have to touch with this stuff a little bit. So people with valid work permits in Canada can come. So if you have a work permit that's being processed or it has been processed, so in theory, if I think about the Titans, presuming they have valid work permits, they in theory can come back. Just strictly talking on the border. If you don't have a valid work permit already, and you're just walking through as a visitor, visitors are not allowed. So you'll be sent home. And Chris already alluded to, when you cross the border, you have to have that quarantine plan. You're to go straight home or wherever your quarantine place is, and speak to no one and do nothing for 14 days. So that's from the Canadian angle. What it's like in Korea, I think some of our listeners can actually probably touch in more on that, just because none of us are going to Korea anytime soon, it seems like. But it seems from what I understand and some of the people that have family there, it is quite a scene, and it's quite impressive actually. They kind of sort you into citizens and non-citizens, and group A goes here, group B goes there, and that's one of the reasons that they've been able to kind of lower their risk a little bit.
Yeah. So if any of you had outstanding questions that we didn't address, if you can get them to us, you can either send them to us on Twitter, you can drop an email, feedback@resetpound.com, or you can actually drop a voice message either by using a phone, and that's 1-604-409-3324, or by going to voicelink.fm/readysetpound, and we will do our best to address those questions and provide some context and answers when we next record an episode, which is planned to be next week, but if things break, we may have something special. So we're going to take a short moment here to transition ourselves into the fray. All music. Wait for the drop that Sam and Omni can't hear.
Back into the fray.
Long drop.
Yeah, it was a long drop, but here we are in the fray. where we're going to talk about the Overwatch League, because it's not like we've actually been talking about OWL at all this episode. We're a long time in, so if you've made it this far and you continue watching the stream and you continue listening to the episode, thank you. So, what went down in the week that was with the Overwatch League? Well, we saw a transition in schedule. So we saw the reintroduction of Thursday and Friday night matches, North American time, and then the weekend was exclusively for teams in the Asia Pacific region. The actual results themselves, however, were a little bit across the board. So just quickly recap. On Thursday, we had the Atlanta Reign 3-0 the Washington Justice. The Battle of LA proved to be a good one. The LA Gladiators beat the LA Valiant 3-2. On Friday, the Florida Mayhem 3-0'd the Paris Eternal. The Toronto Defiant 3-1 the Boston Uprising. And another solid match, the San Francisco Shock beat the Dallas Fuel 3-2. On Saturday, in the wee hours of the morning for us here in North America, and for those of you who might be in Korea or in Asia, prime time afternoon, you saw the Chengdu Hunters 3-0 the Guangzhou Charge, and the Shanghai Dragons 3-0 the Hangzhou Spark. The following day, the Guangzhou Charge 3-1 the Hangzhou Spark, and our favorite Shanghai Dragons team, they beat the Chengdu Hunters 3-0. As far as the batches of the week, I gave absolutely none, because at the time I wasn't all that inspired to watch much Overwatch League because the Vancouver Titans weren't playing, and there was no way in heck I was going to stay up late or get up early to watch Asia matches. But the two of you, to your credit, said, watch the San Francisco Shock Dallas Fuel match. And I had said, really? Well, I think the two of you were onto something, because that was a good fight.
What a game. Do you know how good the San Francisco Shock DPS lineup was? Striker, Rascal, Sinatra, and Architect. Well, the double Ds on Dallas, Doha and DK, they're not too shabby themselves. It started out great. There was a massive triple boop. If you haven't seen it, go look it up, where Moff just booped 3 people into the pit in Lijiang Tower. And Dallas started out strong. They went up 1-0. I think they had better peeling with Gamsu on Orisa than Smurf. There was a lot of compositions and different maps. But then Rialto comes out strong, and San Francisco Shock comes up strong in Rialto, and they go this soldier and tracer approach. DK kind of slows them down at the end, but they get all 3 points with less than a minute. But then Doha gets a 4K, and we got the first legit 6K on Farah. Eventually, though, San Francisco Shock equalized to 1-1. There was a lot of cool things in that game. Lumbani, we saw a rare Mercy frag from Dallas, and they took the point, but they really the cool thing about it in that game is despite the fact that they couldn't get the card all the way in Numbani, you got to look at that full hold at the start, which pretty nuts. But then Hanamura's kind of was the time for San Francisco to bully Dallas with a full hold, and it went 2-2. But then Busan was another good example. Rascal and Striker were pretty amazing in this game. Map 2 is the classic double 99er, but Dallas, they just fell apart at the end. I think the Sigma pick from Node was pretty surprising how well he stood up, but at the end, Choi Hobin and Rascal kind of stepped it up at the end. I think Rascal right now is probably the biggest revelation from San Francisco Shock. That guy can play.
Wasn't he getting traded to the Titans 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, I was saying. I was going to say, remember when the Overwatch League drama was, oh my goodness, what's happening to Rascal? Boy, wouldn't he look good in Vancouver? And now it's wouldn't Vancouver wish that Rascal drama was still the drama?
Yup.
Let's start those rumors up again.
Let's sign him up.
You heard it here first. Rascal traded to the Vancouver Titans.
Is he a free agent? What about that Decay guy? Does he need a new contract?
Well, San Francisco has a large enough roster that if they have a few players to spare and Vancouver is in possible need of some,
we can trade.
We're truly in the end time.
We can add a few Froster cups with bumper on it to sweeten the deal.
It's just. We joke, and maybe we shouldn't, but it's to the point where what else can we do, right?
6 rascals, exactly. Yeah. Scrundy, that's a good comment.
Well, someone I'm gonna go off the rails here. Someone on Arcow had actually said that Vancouver is now going to just keep Janu, and it'll be the Vancouver Janu 6 stack. And I was sort of thinking I could get behind that idea. Yeah.
It would definitely beat Team RSP.
Yeah. 6 divas is the way to go. So I don't know why you guys went like Annas and Zens. You should have just gone straight 6 divas.
It was more fun.
Oh gosh, yeah. The other match that the two of you suggested to watch was the Hunter's Charge. So if anyone mistakenly stayed up late to watch that one, you can blame those two. It wasn't on me.
I watched the VOD because I really wanted to know among these two teams that beat the Titans who was the better one. And surprisingly, it was Chengdu. And ironically, both teams played dive, the same dive that we tried to play against them. Leave on the Tracer was really, really good. Nero on the Farrakhan, they had this weird composition. I think Charge. No,
but these guys play each other once a week, right?
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's you again. Yeah, it's becoming quite ridiculous. And they both went the Sombra route, so that's why we saw Eileen. And on the other side, who played this Sombra?
Don't ask me. I didn't watch.
Yeah, so it was Leave on the Tracer and Nero on the Farah, but
it would have been Jinmu. Right?
Jinmu, exactly.
There you go.
But there was a lot of Ashe, and people are kind of saying that Ashe.
Omni loves a good Ashe.
Yeah, I love Ashe. Suddenly there's a meme. I don't know if it's a meme, but they say that Ashe is a dishonest hero or like a dishonest comp. Why?
There's no. I mean, I'm sorry. There's no way Ashe is dishonest. Like,
Ashe was
sure, she's got Bob,
off.
But the thing about getting Bob is you have to work so hard.
Yeah.
To get Bob, like that. That's what keeps you honest.
I think Molly and Yveltal played better support duo, and they supported Meng better in that Rialto hold. Leave and Tracer, they put their carry pants back on, and Jinmu and Leave, I think they beat out Nero and Eileen in this game. And then Shu didn't really look that well on the Moira. He's a great Anna, don't get me wrong, and Zen, obviously his Moira was really not doing a good job. And they fully held 3-0 in that last map.
The other match that you had suggested, Omni, people should watch was the Shanghai Dragons versus the Chengdu Hunters. Which, again, if you stayed up real late or you woke up really early, you can hate on Omni here because I can't remember what you said about this one. But
Leave forgot how to aim with Ashe. There's a point there in Dorado where it's just it was looking bad, and Shanghai looking really strong. I don't know what's about Fleta. Maybe they traded Fleta as well to the Titans by now, so he didn't play. That would be a good pickup next to Rascal. That's a good DPS duo. And Shanghai looking really, really strong. Mm-hmm. Fearless is looking amazing on the Winston. Luffy's playing really well on the Ana. Shanghai was really, really rolling quickly. Among kind of helped, but not enough. I think there was like a point there where Fearless was out playing and doing his best Among impression. He played a really good ball. Void, obviously, really good diva. He was hyped to be one of the best divas in the world. He definitely played this last game like it looked like he was one of the best divas in the world. So they are looking strong. And Shanghai, unlike Chengdu and Hangzhou and Guangzhou, who are like on this seesaw of being terrible and good and terrible and good, Shanghai seems to be like just being better and better every game they play. So.
I think we'll start to see sort of where Shanghai places when the Seoul Dynasty return to action.
Right.
And obviously with NYXL and the London Spitfire also coming into play, we'll sort of see where Shanghai sits. But it's a shame that we're not able to sort of see Shanghai measure up against a team like the San Francisco Shock, for instance, or match up against I hate to say it, either of the LAs.
Dallas Fuel.
Dallas Fuel.
Dallas Fuel.
Truly.
Houston's looking good.
Shanghai, I think all three of us will accept this is a good team. It's just, unfortunately, the situation doesn't really allow for us to see the comparable, and we don't know when that might be. Anything else about the weekend that was that you want to address before we move on the week that will be?
I think that's it.
Okay. Well, the week that will be does not include your Vancouver Titans, for reasons that we have already discussed. And again, our fingers are crossed based on what Ryan shared with me, and also, what he has somewhat shared is that they will be returning soon. So, who is it that you can watch this week? Well, first and foremost, the characters that won't be in this week are Echo, because, heaven forbid, she actually show up. Whether or not she can, I don't know, but she won't be for sure. Tracer, Orisa, and Moira. Now, who are the teams that are going to have to make choices around those 4 bands? Well, you've got the Seoul Dynasty and Hangzhou Spark kicking off the weekend on Saturday at 1 a.m., followed by the Guangzhou Charge Shanghai Dragons at 3 a.m. 5 a.m. is the return of the New York Excelsior, and they're going to be facing off against the Chengdu Hunters. Later that afternoon at 1 p.m. is the Atlanta Reign and Philadelphia Fusion. At 3 p.m. it's the San Francisco Shock and the LA Valiant. Sunday at 1 a.m. it's the Hangzhou Spark versus the Chengdu Hunters. 3 a.m. it's the Shanghai Dragons and the Seoul Dynasty. And at 5 a.m. it's the Guangzhou Charge and the New York Excelsior. 1 p.m. in the afternoon is the Florida Mayhem and the Boston Uprising. And at 3 p.m. it's the Houston Outlaws and the Dallas Fuel. Oh, so this is breaking news. This is actually the benefit of what we're recording. And Katrina is telling us that Shanghai just announced 2 coaches as we've been recording. Is that actual true, or is that like master level troll from Katrina to work her way into podcast lore by pulling a fast one here?
You're making me Google Katrina.
Yeah, I mean, the least she could have actually shared was who it would be.
So Quartermain and
Kong.
KD&G Kong, yeah.
So Wood for Sheep had confirmed it. Wow, I mean, look at that. This is the benefit of having a live stream, and our listeners and our viewers actually providing us the straight up goods, because normally what would occur, we'd record and then, oh great guys, look at all this breaking news that took place. So
not Yangwon and Benji.
Yeah, which is what you dropped in the chat there. Omni Strike the Troll. So, having gone through those matches, what are the ones to watch? Well, Omni and I suggest that if you are going to either get up real early or stay up, I wouldn't actually recommend staying up late. Get up early. Watch the New York Excelsior Chengdu Hunters match. I chose that one because it's the return of New York, and I'm genuinely curious. It's not so much that I think we'll see a good match against Chengdu. It's just I don't remember how New York plays. Sam, you said Seoul Dynasty, Hangzhou Spark. Is that just because it's the return of Seoul?
It's also the first game, so you know what time it'll be on.
That's true. That's the other problem about that 5 a.m. match. It could be, as far as we know, like 3 a.m. So the Sunday matches, both Omni and I suggest you should watch the Dragons Dynasty. The reason I chose this is I try to follow the rule of I choose one match a day, and this is the return of Seoul, which is why I chose that one. And then Sam, you went a little off the board saying Charge Excelsior, and then Omni also suggested watching the Battle of Texas, Houston versus Dallas.
Yeah, both teams are looking decent.
Yeah.
I think the general trend is, hey, Seoul's back, hey, New York's back, so watch one of their 2 games this week.
Yeah.
Or watch Boston versus Florida. We don't judge.
I'm genuinely curious what the views would be on that.
Is it still permissible that we as Vancouver Titans fans can take pot shots?
I mean, hashtag at least we're not Boston still lives. So
apologies to all the Uprising fans out there.
Oh my goodness.
I'm so sorry.
We give you permission to also make fun of us.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
didn't ask for the permission.
Yeah, we're easily memed. We hope that the Vancouver Titans return the week after this. But again, schedules are being released week after week, it seems, and so we'll learn when it gets shared.
Arnold
Sunday
will let us know.
Yeah, Arnold will. That's true. So what else has been going on in the world of Overwatch? Well, there was a tiny patch release, and I wasn't really going to touch on it, but it was a bug fix. So there wasn't any critical hero changes that took place, just unintended consequences, primarily around Echo, but a few other characters. Uncle Jeff did, however, share some context. as to sort of what we're going to see happen. So there's the discussion about sort of hero bans, why have they gone aligned, and it was based on feedback from a majority of the players in the Overwatch League about having a space that they can scrim in that's consistent with what they'll expect in the league. I still think the three of us would say that system needs to be worked out, but is what it is. There's also going to be control changes. So any crowd control abilities that exist in the game are going to, if they haven't done so already, show up in the experimental card. And based on what we've seen in experimental, I would say a vast number of the changes they propose there go live. Not all of them, but a good number. So it'll be interesting to see how they approach the crowd control. Abilities. Like we kind of joked about it during our Team RSP, Timberfin concept stream, that when Echo suddenly decides to become Reinhardt, how the heck do you deal with two Reins? And at one point, I got Earth Shattered twice. I got hacked, I got frozen, and I got McCree stunned. So I'm pretty confident that crowd control was an issue before the introduction in Echo, and Echo just takes it to like a stratospheric level.
What, no shield bash from Brig on that one?
Well, there's only so many characters that you can choose in a particular match. Like,
yeah, true.
I will say that trying to cast Echo is impossible. So for the people that have to do that, my condolences to you. It is. I didn't know what was going on. I was just staring at the match, going, and even Schmitty, bless his soul, was like, I think we're supposed to say something here.
Well, actually, I'm going to use this as a segue. As much as we at Team RSP got our butts handed to us, in that stream, and I know, credit to you, Sam, as well as Schmidtstorm and casting for us. I had fun, and I think our community that sort of showed up, they had fun too. I know it may not have been the most engaging matchup watching a team that had cohesion that plays together versus a bunch of pickups like we were, but I enjoyed it, and I'm kind of wondering if maybe that's a space that we at RSP can, do more of. It wouldn't be happening all the time, but we can, set something up, find a better way to balance the play a little bit. Not that
just have them have a lever every time.
Yeah, well, that, as we saw, didn't help us either. But impressive things happened out of that. I mean, obviously Timber got to meme us throughout with his, Reinhardt bumper slams. At one point in our comms, we're like, okay, we know he's around. None of us see him. So he's obviously coming with some crazy flank meme strat. And we couldn't stop it. Like, we knew it was happening. We couldn't stop it. And then you have me as Anna sleeping and an ulting Genji, which...
That was beautiful.
I think I've maybe pulled that off once before. And I slept him like bang on. Pro strats. And then I dropped a pot to wake him up. So the saving grace is I dropped the pot. But I am a Reinhardt main. The fact that I could do that as an Anna is big brain theory here. But no, I had fun. And I hope those of you who tuned into that stream enjoyed it for what it was. If that's something that you think we need to do more of, want to get involved, we're open to the idea and we can make that happen. Maybe we need a sub Sam and Schmidian, and then Omni and I will do the casting next time.
I only play Raze though. Yeah,
you and your Valorant games that you've been playing with Hacksaw in between Kumon.
That's exactly what we're doing. No, Shronide says Overwatch could help Valorant out by acquiring Raze, which is one of the most OP characters right now. But anyway, I digress.
So here we are at the end of a very long episode. For those of you watching the live stream, and for those of you who've tuned into this podcast episode through normal means, I hope what we were able to share today provided some level of insight and clarity that might be lacking. I know we didn't address all of the outstanding questions, and those answers will be provided to us in due time. It is important to understand there is a story that is going to be told. It will be told. It makes very little sense to write the story yourself I understand it is our nature to speculate, our nature to look for answers, but to make broad statements and blanket statements simply because we found it on social media is not the best way to go about it. That doesn't invalidate what you're suggesting might be true, because it very well could be. It's just important to understand that the situation is a dynamic one, and if podcast lore means anything, we'll learn more about what's happening at 12:01 p.m. Pacific time, 1 minute after this episode goes live. So, any final words of wisdom the two of you wish to share to all of our viewers on Twitch, Mixer, Facebook Live, YouTube Gaming, Periscope, and those who are listening after the fact through their favorite podcast application?
If you're in a bad situation, don't worry, it will change. If you're in a good situation, don't worry, it will change.
That's some deep stuff.
Hell yeah.
From me, one thing we do know for certain is that the Titans won't be playing this week. So as per not even popular demand, just the demand of my employers here at RSP, I have come up with a list that says top 5. I can't see what the camera says, so you guys are going to have to just bear with me. Top 5 list of things you can do without Titans matches. So number 5 here, shave your head. You can go ahead and do that straight at home. Shout out to Britney Spears. Number 4, make Dalgona coffee. It's all the rage. It's a lot of work, and the results are mediocre.
Dalgona coffee.
Number 3, I want to hashtag shop local. If you guys are going to do any shopping, online shopping, support your favorite restaurants, support your favorite clothing stores, buy from them, even consider leaving a tip, even though technically you're not getting service, blah, 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 I know. But let's try and do our part that if we are spending money and we're able to do so, that we're supporting local stores. Number 2, you knew this was coming. Watch The Last Dance on Netflix. The Last Dance is the it's the Chicago Bulls documentary of Michael Jordan's last season in their last championship before the Bulls decided to become the worst franchise in league history. And number 1, the top thing to do without Titans matches is donate to I couldn't spell it right. Extra Life. So here we go. You got the URL here. If you're on the live stream, you've been pumping the URL out all night. It's Extra Life with the dash between extra and life.org/team/ready-set-pwn and help some children out. There you go. That's my top 5 list for this week.
Thanks, Sam. Just to sort of piggyback on that, the Extra Life campaign is one that we refer to each and every episode. I encourage you to look into it. It's a phenomenal campaign to raise money for sick and injured children in Children's Miracle Network hospitals here in North America, both the United States as well as Canada. At RSP, we're specifically supporting the BC Children's Hospital Foundation. But if you want to get involved with Extra Life, if considering the tough times we're in, donating is not a possibility, that's perfectly fine. We would love to have you part of our own Team RSP Extra Life campaign, and you're able to join our team just by going to that same link, which is extra-life.org/team/ready-set-pwn. Let's do our part to support sick and injured kids, and their motto makes quite a bit of sense. Playing games to heal kids. So as final words from me, again, remember, the day-to-day events of our lives are difficult to handle and deal with, but understand that we will get through this. We will get through the current situation. The Vancouver Titans will continue to move forward. There will be a tomorrow. Yes, we don't know what that tomorrow entails, but it's important to understand it is never going to be the worst case scenario. So on behalf of Omni at Omni Strife, Sam and another Sam Chan, myself, Chris at Lightforce, you can find us at ReadySetPwn.com and throughout all social media at ReadySetPwn. I'm going to sign off with those magical 2 words, catchphrase.